great pleasure of speaking to 7 Americans who are now free from their imprisonment or detention in Iran, out of prison, and now in Doha, en route back to the United States to be reunited with their loved ones. 5 of the 7, of course, had been unjustly detained, imprisoned in Iran, some for years. 2 others had been prevented from leaving Iran. I spoke to them after they landed in Doha. I can tell you that it was, for them, for me, an emotional conversation. It's easy in the work that we do every day sometimes to get lost in the abstractions of foreign policy and relations with other countries, and forgetting the human element that's at the heart of everything we do. But today, their freedom, the freedom of these Americans for so long unjustly imprisoned and detained in Iran, means some pretty basic things. It means that husbands and wives, fathers and children, grandparents can hug each other again, can see each other again, can be with each other again. So it's a day that I'm grateful for. It's very good to be able to say that our fellow citizens are free after enduring something that I think it would be difficult for any of us to imagine, that their families will soon have them back among them, and that in this moment, at least, I have something very joyful to report. President Biden has demonstrated that he's prepared to make tough and difficult decisions. I have no higher priority. The President has no higher priority than making sure that Americans who are unjustly detained anywhere can come home, and we'll continue that work in the days ahead. To date, under this administration, we have now brought 30 Americans home from places around the world where they were being unjustly detained. That work will continue. At the same time, we're going to be working every single day to take steps to make this practice more and more difficult and more of a burden on those countries that engage in it.
Freedom's not just another word for nothing left to lose. It's something that Siamak Namazi said in a statement that he's been dreaming of for the 2,898 days he was held prisoner in Iran. All 5 released today are US-Iranian dual nationals. Ahmad Shargi was also seen disembarking in Doha. And Morad Tabaz, who has British citizenship as well. His family were bitterly disappointed when he was left behind when Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe was released. Niamazi's mother and Tabaz's wife, who had previously not been allowed to leave Iran, were also on the flight. Businessman Niamazi's elderly father, Bagher, was also held for nearly 6 years before being released last year. Morad Tabaz, seen here with his wife Vida, is an environmentalist held since 2018. Ahmad Shargi, another businessman, was arrested in 2020. The others have chosen to remain anonymous, presumably to protect families in Iran.
I spoke to them after they landed in Doha. I can tell you that it was, for them, for me, an emotional conversation. This process and the engagements necessary to bring it about, the freedom of these unjustly detained Americans, has always been a separate track in our engagement, or for that matter, lack of engagement, with Iran. So irrespective of what was happening or not happening, for example, in pursuing the effort to return to the nuclear agreement, we've been focused on working independently to bring these Americans home.
The Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi left Tehran for the UN General Assembly yesterday. Iran's provision of drones to Russia for the war in Ukraine and continued enrichment of uranium means that rapprochement with the US is unlikely. The Americans were swapped for 5 Iranians in America accused of sanctions busting. and the release of $6 billion held up by sanctions in South Korea.
The money was Iran's money. I mean, in terms of deals, this one, frankly, was very ingenious. It was Iranian money frozen in South Korea, Iranian oil revenues from oil they legally exported to South Korea under the Trump administration, which has been released to two banks in Qatar, where the use of this money will be strictly monitored to make sure that it's for food and medicine. So it's not a ransom.
Suffering together creates strong bonds. Siamak Namazi says they will not stop campaigning for other dual nationals and political prisoners still held in Iran.